Welcome to Screentime, everybody. It is movies, streaming, and everything in between. Gary Tanguay along with Drew Yanno. We had a blast. We got a lot of great reaction. Thank you so much for our Thanksgiving week edition as we relived Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And Drew, after the fact, we found out they're coming out with a 4K version with the 75
Yeah, the
deleted
rest of the
minutes.
rest of the minutes.
Yeah, the rest of the minutes, which you said are fabulous.
Well, I don't know. I've never seen them, but the editor said I didn't know what to take out. It was all
Right.
so great.
So good.
Yeah.
So,
So,
anyways, moving
but
on.
they wouldn't have helped the story. It's too much story. So, they did the right thing because you can't have a comedy be 3 hours long.
No, you can't. But it's going to be fun to see.
Mm.
Anyways, and I think John Candy is going to steal the show, but that's just my
Of
guess.
course.
Taylor Sheridan, without question, is the hottest man in television right now. And he's done it again. He has done it again. First, it started with Yellowstone, and then it went to 1883, and the hits just keep on coming, right?
Mayor of what is it?
Mayor of Easttown.
Or something. Yeah.
Did he do Helen? He did Helen.
Hell or High Water. Yeah.
Hell or High Water, right?
Which I love. Got nominated, I think.
Yeah, that's a great movie. But he's got Tulsa King, which Drew and I have watched the first 3 episodes. We highly recommend that all of you do the same. It's phenomenal. Fish
It's
out of water.
Stallone in a way you haven't seen him.
He's so good in this. As
really
I tweeted out that he's funny, he's self-deprecating, and he's dangerous.
Yeah, he's not Rocky Balboa, and he's not John Rambo. He's none of the. He's not those guys.
Well, I mean, listen, everybody knows that Sylvester Stallone is a very bright man. I mean, the guy wrote Rocky. I mean, he is not the dunce that he has played, or just the angry soldier that he's played. There's a lot to this guy, and you see it. So let's set the stage. This takes place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and after 25 years of keeping his mouth shut, Sylvester Stallone, who plays Dwight Manfredi, is a captain in the mafia. He gets out after 25 years, and he expects to be properly repaid. He didn't sell anybody out. He took the fall for somebody else, and they assign him to Tulsa, Oklahoma. So he goes from New York City to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're off and running.
And the mob boss who he was tight with and whose ass he saved has a son who's pretty much running things now. And you'll see not give anything away, you'll see it in the first 10 minutes of the episode. The mob boss looks like he's dying, right? He's got the oxygen in and all. And then there's this new group of mobsters, one of whom he decks, which is my favorite part of the first episode.
So they sent him to Tulsa because there's no organized crime there, or so they think.
Right.
So they think.
We don't know.
We don't know. But so Stallone, there's a couple of, there was one part I thought that went too much. So imagine this: Sylvester Stallone, straight out of prison, gets himself a nice suit, gets himself a nice car. He looks good. He looks the part, and he flies into Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it's really funny. It's really funny. And he's also out of prison for the first time for 25 years. There's a reference made that I thought was a little much, where he said, it'd be great if they had some sort of device where you could just look things up. And then, the driver says, dude, it's an iPhone. Okay, we got it. You've been away, but I don't think...
And he talks about a phone, so he knows about the phone.
He knows about the phone. That was my only problem with it.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I did enjoy some of the other things. For example, when he goes out to walk across the street.
The crosswalk.
The crosswalk.
When it starts talking. Wait. That's beautiful. He wouldn't know that in prison. He wouldn't know that. Wait, he looks around.
But still, the thing that why Stallone is so good is he's unfazed by it. He's so self-deprecating in his character. He just looks around. He doesn't freak out. Like, everything is just so methodical, and he looks around and he's like, where's that coming from? And I also like the fact that his character in Manfredi is smart. He quotes literature.
Well, he read in prison. He tells you he read.
Right.
He doesn't tell you how many books, but it's a lot.
Right. And at the beginning of the first scene in prison, you see a lot of books. But, he's a smart guy. I mean, he's not only street smart, but he's very intelligent, obviously. And I think that gives the character great depth, which I appreciate. So he lands in Tulsa, and he has to set up an organized crime unit and start sending money back to New York, right?
$5 grand a week, is it?
Yeah, something like that. So where does he stop first? And oh, I have to say, let's talk about his co-star, Jay Wills, who is phenomenal, who plays his driver. He's a
Tyson.
young man. He's a young man
His name
who,
is Tyson. The driver's name is Tyson.
right,
Right?
Tyson. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, his driver's name is Tyson. He's a young man who picks him up at the airport as a cab driver. They become friends, and Tyson eventually becomes his driver. And I love the relationship.
Yeah, it's great.
Do you
And
have
I
any?
love Tyson's father, who is suspicious of the whole thing, and you know that's going to play out, and that's great.
Well,
That's
he
what I like.
knows. I
They
mean,
they they've set up characters who you know you're going to see again, who are going to play a part in this, and you almost can't wait.
right. And let's talk about this relationship for a minute. So you have Sylvester Stallone, who admits in a bedroom scene that we'll get to that he had with a young woman who turns out to be an ATF agent, that he's 75 years old, right? So they didn't try to make him 50,
No.
right? I think it's great. I just think it's so genuine. And he goes,
As he says, what are you concerned about? The age gap? And she says, that's not an age gap. That's a canyon gap.
right,
Or that's
right.
like age canyon.
That's an
Yeah.
age canyon, right? Because she
Yeah.
thought he was like 55. So he's 75. He's a mobster from New York in Tulsa, and he is a young African American man, who's also smart, has dropped out of college in Tyson, and they become buddies.
I don't know if they're buddies.
I think they
He
are.
works with him and he kind of likes him and doesn't want him in the world that he's in.
Well, he uses him
Looking
as the
out for him.
driver, and you're right. So what I appreciate about this relationship is, Stallone's character, Dwight, says to him, I don't want you to have this life. Go to college.
Yeah.
And he said,
I've been there. I've tried it.
you're not perfect, but you're not a bad guy. And there are some parallelisms to The Sopranos. And I think it's a tribute because Terrence Winter, who wrote on The Sopranos, is a showrunner for this show. But for example, Stallone wants a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah.
And he wants the cup. He wants a porcelain cup.
Yeah.
Right. And they give him the paper cup. So I think is it episode 3? You see him out front, and he's sitting at a table in front of a coffee shop, and he has his own little porcelain cup,
and he pours it in.
Right. But I automatically thought that's The Sopranos. They used to sit in front of the sandwich shop.
Yeah.
Right. He likes to sit there. So I love that. I love that parallelism. But tell me what you think about his character, because I love his character.
Well, it's classic fish out of water, right? That's it's a trope, but I love him because he's understated. He will erupt in violence if he has to, but like you said, he's intelligent. He can quote, Henry Miller. He can, but he has great instincts. He goes to the bar. He meets the woman who's an ATF agent, and she says, I can't help you. Once she figures out who he is, and he says, I don't expect you to, which is again against type, which, any other mobster you would think in TV or film would want to have somebody in law enforcement on their side. He accepted Tulsa. He said, New York's not for me anymore. They made it so he doesn't see his daughter, so she's in New York and he can't see her, so he may as well be in Tulsa. What the hell, basically. I liked the character. I liked what they did. The interesting thing to me, and I love all these origin stories, it's Taylor Sheridan again, who he's got a $200 million deal with Paramount. The guy he's got the Midas touch now. Apparently he wrote this for Stallone, and Stallone says, you can read this article online. I think it's from the Atlantic. Stallone said, he called me, we talked on a Monday, and he said, by Wednesday or Thursday, I had the script and I was in. I mean, that's simple.
Right.
And, that alchemy is what you want when you're watching something, whether it's a movie or like this, a streaming, a show that's, multiple episode. So I love the character. I love how he reacts. I think he's understated, especially the violence.
The violence is only necessary.
Exactly.
It's not
when he goes to the pot farm, and when I'm not giving anything away, but he gets involved with a guy who owns a dispensary, because it's legal now.
Which he keeps forgetting. They
Which he
keep
keeps, yeah, he's
he
like,
keeps forgetting.
that's
And the
hard for
guy
him to
says,
grapple, but he they go to a pot farm. I'm gonna, you got to watch it because it's a fantastic scene. Fuck face. No, bad face. That's a great line.
he's got some great one-liners
There's
in
some
there.
great
But
lines, you know.
you mentioned Taylor Sheridan because he's worked great with Kevin Costner.
Mhm.
And also, what is it called? 1923 coming out, Harrison Ford?
Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren coming
Right.
out.
And Helen Mirren has a shotgun and kills people.
I love it. Can't wait to see it.
Can't wait
They
to
all
see
want
it.
to work with him.
Yeah,
You know,
right. But
you got Tom Hanks, Billy Bob Thornton in 1883. You
right.
know, it's people want to work with the guy because he's got the touch, man. He can write and he can write fast. God damn.
Yeah, he can.
I
And
admire it.
he surrounds himself with good people, as well. Like one of the directors is Alan Coulter. I was looking him up on IMDb and I said, I know that name. That guy's been involved in everything. I
Yeah.
mean, if you take a look at all the great shows on streaming or cable, Alan Coulter has been involved in one way or another. So he is, and I mentioned Terrence Winter. I mean, he is attracting this type of talent to work with him.
Well, and people want to work with him too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, um,
Let's talk about
there's
the
a
cast
couple
a
of
little
things
bit.
that got me,
What's
and
that?
I think they're intentional. I don't think they're mistakes. But for instance, he says in the beginning his father was a barber,
Right.
right? But then Stacy, the ATF agent, when she's talking to some other law enforcement person and gets his background, the person who gives the background says the father was a farmer. So those aren't the same thing or even close. And then there's the credit card thing. He can't look up his daughter online because he needed a credit card to do a people search. But earlier in one of the episodes, he said, do you take credit cards to someone? Do you take a credit card? So I thought, okay, there's something going on here. It's not like Sheridan and those guys to make a mistake. So I think stuff's going to come out.
Are
But
you
I thought it
talking?
was interesting.
Yeah, probably. I mean, are you talking about the issue where he needs the credit card and he pays somebody to use their credit card?
Yeah, well,
He
he
says, "I'll
does
give you the
that.
cash."
But
He doesn't
before
have it.
that, he says, when he's first in town, he
You
says,
take
do you
credit card.
take a credit card? Do you take credit cards? And then he learns he has to have a credit card to send
Right.
FedEx, but they don't use the name. And then he needs a credit card to look up his daughter. So he goes to get he doesn't get a credit card. He gets a debit card from the bank
Right from the
because
bank.
Tyson helps him with
And
that.
that's another thing. Let's talk about some of these things that coming out of jail, his license is expired. He has to take a new road test, right?
Yeah.
So Tyson,
Don't say what happens during the road test.
no, I'm not going to say what happens during the road test, but what I'm going to tell you, the viewer, is it's awesome. And I totally didn't see it coming.
No. There's another thing. You talk about the character. There's an old screenwriting thing from the 30s, and it's everybody's used it in everything. It's, when you want to show your main character has a heart, you have him pet the dog. It's called Pet the Dog. And it's literally that. There's an old producer said, you want them to like your character, have him pet a dog. Well, he meets a homeless woman, older woman,
Right.
At this place they call the Center of Universe, which is supposedly you can stand in this place and say something and nobody can hear you, but you're talking to God or something. And she explains it to him, and then she gets up to leave. And he says something and she doesn't hear him. So she gets up to leave and he goes over and he pulls out a wad of cash and hands it to her. And she said, what's this? And he says, get something good to eat. And she said, I want your money. So it's a classic pet the dog, except he gets rejected. But
Right.
And you'll remember in the original Rocky, there's a great pet the dog scene when he meets the girl and the guys are singing on the street and they're all talking about her. And he says, you don't want to be a whore, and she says, fuck you, Rocky, basically. And it's that same rejection thing that makes you like the guy even more because he offered and it was rejected.
Well, he's a mobster with integrity.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a good character. And I don't know. So far, I love them. I love the thing.
I do
And
too. So one of the things that does happen is the first thing that he learns about is a marijuana dispensary.
right.
And he walks in and basically forces his way in and says to Martin Starr, who plays Bodie, the guy that owns it, I'll offer you protection. He's like, protection from what? He goes, well, the cops, he goes, dude, it's legal.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm a little, so, and then when he talks about the feds, he talks about how one dispensary got raided by the feds.
Yeah.
He needs to get the money out of the safe. Is that just for tax purposes? I didn't understand that part.
You know, Bodie's going along because he's scared,
Oh, yeah.
you know, but I don't know that the feds could come in, but they do. They control it. I mean, it's legal. So it wouldn't be the feds, though. It would be the state, because the state legalizes marijuana,
Yeah.
not
So
the
that was
feds. The
that.
feds, it's not legal, believe it or not, under federal law. So it's legal under most state laws.
So he goes back to the safe where Bodie is, this, guy running a dispensary. And he's, let me see your safe, let me see your safe. And this guy's got like what do you say, $500,000?
$500,000. Yeah.
And he goes, all right, I'm going to take 20%. And then Bodie says to him, well, is that all you're taking? He goes, no, that's my cut, 20%. I'm a man of
We're
honor.
partners, he says.
We're partners.
We're partners.
We're
Yeah.
partners. And then he starts, I think what's going to happen is they evolve. He's going to grow the business with them. I mean, now they're looking into other ideas way to make money. And all
We won't talk about those again. We don't want to give stuff away, but it's such a good show right now. I have to say I'm happy. Some shows peter out, so this could, but I don't know. I think if Sheridan's paying attention, it won't peter out.
Well, he meets in this third episode. He meets Dana Delaney, who runs a horse farm, and he has to go visit her for some reason. And so you could tell they get flirty, so all that stuff. And he says, well, what if I want riding lessons? And she
says, go out, look it up on the website.
Look it up on the website. Because he said, I'm a private investigator. And she looks at him and she goes, yeah, I'm an astronaut. Yeah. And then she walks away and he laughs. And then there's just a wide shot of him, again, dressed like a New Yorker in the middle of this horse field, walking away. And he goes, I think I like this state.
Yeah.
And it's just hilarious. He has a bunch of one-liners that just kill me.
Yeah. He delivers them well. He delivers them well. They're worth it.
Let's talk about the ATF agent for a minute, because Andrea Savage plays Stacey Beal, the ATF agent, who they're starting to develop some sort of relationship. Did you like that at first? Because I was iffy on it.
I was surprised at them ending up together that first night when she's at some sort of girls' night out. But then they have her speaking to her therapist, in which she admits she's been divorced for a year and she hasn't been dating, but she says, I slept with somebody. Right. And then she says, are you going to see him again? No. And then she talks to the law enforcement person when she finds out who he is. This other, I don't know if she's FBI or what she is. She assures her she's not going to do it, but then she goes back. And the question in my mind is she going back because she wants to bust him? Keep an eye on him and bust him? Because she's had a career, trouble.
Yeah, she's had issues. That's why she's
banished to Tulsa too, just like him.
Right. Well, that's true. Drew, that's an excellent point. And I didn't think of that. As far as parallelism goes, they're both damaged and they both have been rejected.
And they both been banished to Tulsa.
Right.
So she could be doing this because she wants to be with him, or she could be doing it because it could help her career. We don't know, which is great. You don't want to know.
Because I don't, at first I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll wait and see. But the fact that Sylvester Stallone has this young kid, Tyson, driving him around town, and he has Bodie, who's running a marijuana dispensary as a business partner, and he's having an on-again, off-again relationship with an ATF agent, all while setting up an organized crime unit in Tulsa, Oklahoma, is fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. I know it's 10 episodes. I don't know if it's self-contained. This is the whole story, or if we're going to get multiple seasons.
Oh, I
haven't heard yet.
I hope. I mean, listen, I'll be really disappointed if this thing doesn't deliver. I'll be really disappointed. And
it's funny you bring it up, because I think one of the things about streaming is, we talked about this in the last episode, I think. There's the self-contained ones, the Queen's Gambit, Godless, those ones that are just, it's going to be 8 episodes, it's going to be beginning, middle, end. And then there's the ones that keep going on, like old-fashioned TV. when is enough? When is too much? When is it over? You know, because the problem with episodic TV over the years,
Right.
when it was regular TV, was, you know, oh, the Seinfeld finale was awful. Well, of course, because it was never designed to end. You know, the MASH ending was never designed to end. They weren't designed that way. Movies are designed to end. So I don't know. It's like Ted Lasso. They said they're going to do 3. Well, they gotta have to come up with an ending. I think that's why they're struggling for this third season.
Yeah, they didn't like the second half of this third season at all.
Well,
And that's why
because
they
that's got to be
started
the
over.
ending, because they're only going to do 3. See, that's the problem. So I hope this goes forward, but how long can it go? You know,
I think
Shameless went too long. There's
oh
no
my
doubt about
God.
it.
I'd say 3 years. The magic number's 3. I think.
But we'll see.
I think if you did 10 episodes a year and you have a really good series and it's 10 episodes a year for 3 years, you're doing well.
Yeah.
That's what I think. So,
Well, listen, if you haven't seen it, watch it, make up your own
and
mind.
Drew mentioned there's a character in here, Max Casella's the actor. He was in 97 episodes of Doogie Howser. So we're thinking, is that the guy? But yeah, I'm glad, you know something, Drew, it exceeded my expectations. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you something, buddy. Paramount is in the game. They
Oh,
are
yeah.
in the game.
Yeah, totally.
They are in the game. They are doing good stuff. For
I
Drew
think
Yanno,
Hulu and Paramount are doing better than HBO.
yeah, HBO after the Discovery merger, it's all
Yeah.
kind of a mess.
Yeah, they're not. It's not run right now.
They need to, and they're merging them together. And what the Discovery people do and what the HBO people do are 2 different things, and they need to work on that. But I agree with you.
Apple's lagging a bit, but the Will Smith movie's coming out December 9th, so that'll pick
Well, the
up.
one thing about Apple is I don't think they're into quantity, but they're into quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're never going to have a billion original series on there like Netflix.
Well, they have slow horses, and we're going to talk about slow horses at some point. You
Love
haven't seen
it.
it yet, have you?
I've seen the first series.
Oh yeah, okay. We should talk about that sometime.
The first year, I saw the first year.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, have you? The second one's not out yet, though, is it?
They made it. It's
They
coming.
made it. I think it's like out.
And there's like 8 or 10 books, so they could go on forever. But again, we're back to that. How long do you go?
Gary Oldman is fantastic in that. They're all good. All right, for Drew Yanno, I'm Gary Tanguay, and you have been watching Screentime, streaming and movies and everything in between.